everyone. This is Jared Rand, and welcome to the Global Guided Meditation Call for August 4th, 2022, a little after 3 p.m. Eastern. We can simply choose to be happy with what is happening in our lives. Not because you have to, but because you can. Let yourself be a bubbling ball of joy today. It is your special sacred choice. The joy that we seek is not out there anymore. So just soften yourself and let go of your agendas. You'll find this permanent fountain of happiness showering from within. You can conquer, any of us can conquer any fear if we will only make up our mind to do so. For remember, fear doesn't exist anywhere except in the mind. That came from Dale Carnegie. Fear doesn't exist anywhere except in the mind. How many times have any of us been stopped dead in our tracks because of fear? Where would we be today if we were fearless and unstoppable? What dreams would we have manifested? Fear is the most debilitating energy that we all face on a daily basis and can create a mountain out of an anthill. By learning how to transcend our fears, we can open up doors to success in areas of our lives that we've never imagined were possible. Knowing the secret to being fearless, you will start living your dreams and having the life you truly desire. So, really, what is fear? Fear is an emotional response that happens when we imagine or believe that something is going to harm us in some way. Okay? Fear is an emotional response that happens when we imagine or believe that something is going to harm us in some way. Fear can be healthy when it provides the valuable service of keeping us safe from physical dangers, such as a hungry mountain lion or stepping in front of a high-speeding truck. It activates our adrenaline glands so that we can fight or take flight. Fear does have its place in this wildly active world we live in, and thus does keep us alive. However, fear is more often a life-defeating energy when we overreact to situations and experiences that hold no real danger. For instance, the greatest fear people have is giving a speech to a large crowd in public, believe it or not. The greatest fear people have is giving a speech to a large crowd in public. Nothing really is going to physically harm or kill the person while they are speaking. Yet the fear comes from being judged, disapproved of, and unloved. that our fear is just excitement in disguise, we can turn the most challenging situations into events that we will want to repeat again and again. Now, we've all deciphered fear. You know, we all know that false evidence appearing real, right? A great acronym for fear. In many cases, fear is based on an overactive imagination. For instance, have you ever been home alone at night and begin to strain your ears for strange noises and imagine something hideous was lurking behind your curtains? Some people do this. If you then confronted your fear by turning on the light and moving the curtain to see a sacred mouse scurrying away, or scared mouse, you'd be relieved and your monstrous thoughts would magically disappear. Once you see the reality of any situation, you realize that you never had anything to fear. Once you see the reality of any situation, you realize that you never had anything to fear. So fear only has power over you if you do not face it. The moment you confront your fear and discover the truth, you are freed up inside and magically overcome it. Breaking through all the fears in our lives is simple, believe it or not. Simply realize the truth of who you are. Look deep down inside yourself and see that you are an infinite being, a soul who can never ever die or be hurt by anything of this world. Realize you have been around for an eternity and will continue for eternity. And of course, we're talking about the God within that body. There is nothing that can truly harm you nor change this divine truth about what you really are. To conquer all the fears in our lives, all it takes is realizing this truth and living it. When we face our fears with this knowledge inside, there is nothing that we can possibly be afraid of. Make a list of your fears. Kind of called house cleaning every now and then. Some of the most common fears are fear of public speaking, fear of rejection by a loved one, fear of strangers, meeting someone new, fear of being killed, making a mistake, doing something wrong, etc. Be specific about what it is that you truly are afraid of. Do not leave out any details. And after you have made your list, look it over. Prioritize it from the most fearful to the least. Determine how much pain these fears are causing you in your life. On the back of this paper, write down the answers to the following questions. What am I missing out on in life because of these fears? What will my life look like if I continue to operate from these fears? What negative consequences could occur in the future if I continue to let fear control my life? Establish the benefits of overcoming your fears. Take a separate piece of paper, write down the answers to these questions. What can I create once I overcome these fears? How will my life be better once these fears no longer are real for me? What would I do, accomplish, or experience once these fears are absent from my life? Most people will, it's a habit, that most of us will take the fears that we create within ourselves and then we'll stuff them somewhere. And they seem to go away, right? We put them in a closet, we'll put them under the carpet, wherever we put them. But you ever notice that they come back? When it's not like you know when they come back, but they surface. And so you ignore them, just hoping that they'll go away. But when you embrace your fears, the key to moving through any fear, and this is the fear is the biggest hurdle for humanity. Right? Now, we know that without fear, there's no courage. So fear does play an important role in our lives from a certain perspective. So the key to moving through any fear is to dive into the fearful feeling and realize the truth of who you are that is beneath it. This technique alone has created amazingly fast and enormous shifts in many of our lives. We suggest that you do this exercise in a quiet place where you will not be disturbed. Sit back in a chair, close your eyes. Imagine that one of your fears on your list is happening to you. The worst possible thing that could happen is happening. And let yourself truly feel what it'd be like to be in the situation. Once you are feeling the fear in your body, remain in the center of the fearful feeling. Stay there. Let it get stronger and bigger until you reach its maximum peak. Remain in the peak. Remain at the peak. And breathe into this experience as long as you can. Don't get freaked out and bail out early. It is not real. It is all happening in your mind. Stay in the strongest feeling of fear until it naturally becomes smaller and weaker on its own accord, and then fades away. Once you fully allow yourself to feel all aspects of this fear inside you, something will naturally move you beyond the fear and into a peaceful feeling. When you find this place, you'll be done with that fear forever. Forever, forever. It cannot return the same. Once you experience this natural release inside, there will be a deep stillness, emptiness, and silence when it is truly gone. Any ideas you have about your fear will seem like an old dream that has no real emotion attached to it. If the fearful energy tries to return, welcome it. And refocus on the stillness, emptiness, and silence inside. From this silent space, it is easy to realize the truth that you are an infinite divine being of consciousness that cannot ever be harmed. If your fear is strong, you've had it for years, you may want to get some support around the process. Do it with a friend. Do it with a trained professional or a good friend. Yet, it is usually much more powerful to do the process alone and in the dark. Since because it can help you to bring up even more fear inside. Face your fears, and you'll free your life. Do this exercise by yourself, and you'll establish the confidence that you yourself conquered your fear. After you've done one fear, go back through your list of fears and embrace them all. Every fear on your list is a gift, since your true divine infinite nature is found within each one. See, so we don't, some of us will just collect fears throughout our lives, right? It's like someone has a fear of spiders, for instance, right? Their whole life they have a fear of spiders. And instead of that, they look at it and they face that fear. Why do I have a fear of spiders? Why does that fear with me all the time? And face it. And find out why that is. You fear that the spider's going to bite you and you're going to die? Right? Very few spiders have poisonous bites. Very few. I knew of one person who had a desperate fear of spiders. I mean, really, almost like freezing whenever a spider was around. So they agreed to let a tarantula, have a tarantula put on the palm of their hand. And at first, the fright was very apparent. But they wanted to do it. So they weren't forced to do it. And they had this severe fear of spiders for their whole life, for years. 40 years, fear of spiders. So now you've got to picture this, because a tarantula looks very ominous, right? Hairy and big, but it doesn't hurt. It's not going to hurt. So overcoming that fear, she decided to do that. And after she did that, the fear was gone permanently. She didn't fear spiders anymore. In fact, she got a pet tarantula. So you see, that's just one example. And other people have fear of mice. Different bugs and animals and stuff. And fear of relationships. These are all fears. Fear of loving someone. Fear of happiness. Fear of joy. Fear of death. Fear of living. Fear of poverty. Fear of wealth. And the list goes on and on and on. You can start to see in many different avenues how we collect fears. Why do we have the fears? Well, we know it's our mind. See? It's our mind. The mind is an illusion. It created the ego to help it. That's the truth, too. Same with the subconscious mind. And so if you believe something, right, your mind's going to create a fear. Like, let's say there's a river and you want to walk through the river, right? You want to go walk to the other side. Your mind says to you, that current looks really strong. You could fall, hit your head, and die. Or it could carry you away. Or you could slip and fall. See, the mind immediately starts doing these things. Or, I hope my I'm going to get in trouble. If I don't approach this way, I'm going to be in trouble. It's fear, 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 fear. What do you think controls the population, the civilization of this planet? What controls it? Fear. That's what we have. All of us. Very rarely have I come across, usually a military personnel, right? Usually someone that's been in the military a while, you can tell they don't possess fear. And that's because they've been trained to be killing machines. Okay? So compassion and understanding of compassion has been temporarily moved out of them. Have you ever met a fearless person? I think, many of us have met fearless people. And most of us are not fearless yet. We're kind of in that circle jerk, so to speak, where the mind, the ego keeps creating these fears. And, there's some areas where, don't look at the worst case, look at the best case. But you really visit the worst case, so you really are faced with the fear, right? And that's the way to vaporize it. So you look at this fear, you say, what is the worst case scenario of this fear? Whatever it may be. What is the worst case scenario? You may have a fear of being evicted, right? There's a lot of people that's happening with. Fear of being evicted so you don't have a home. And what's the worst case scenario? And you're usually by yourself in a quiet place, not a lot of lights on. You sit there and ask yourself, okay, so what's the worst thing that can happen? And when you face the fear, right, and you let it go, and you're not concerned, this might sound strange, but you're not concerned, because somehow everything is going to fall into place. Everything's going to work out. And not just superficially, but in real time. The times that I lost everything, had nothing. No food, no transportation, no dwelling to live in. And when I lost everything, and throughout my life so far, when I've experienced these times, every single time I've approached it very similar. I don't say, oh no, not this again. It occurs, and I say to myself, the universe has my back. Always has, always will. And it always has, and it always will. And this is a belief. It isn't something that you state, right, superficially. It's something from within. It is from the God within. And so the interesting thing is, you are the universe. And the universe is you. And I'm not talking about the body, I'm talking about the God. So this is how we, each of us, choose, or not choose, we choose just to eliminate our fears. Now, obviously, if you're in a firefight, right, and you have an enemy, and you just begin to engage, and you've never been in a firefight before, this is in conflict, war, right, and you're scared to idea if you're going to make it through it, if a bullet's going to hit you, or you're going to be blown up, right? And it may get a little bit, as you get conditioned, it's a little bit as you get more seasoned in conflict. It's not as bad, but you still have the fear. The unknown, right? Rocket's going to blow you up or something. So you're on edge the whole time. You're not really relaxed. You're on edge because of these fears. Now, see, that's where fear is instrumental because you have fear first, and then courage comes in big time. This is where you see people saving people, right? At the risk of their well-being. You see people saving people. This has been throughout history. We've all seen this. We've all experienced it. Maybe some of you have done that yourself, or saved a child, or helped someone from dying, leaving the body. And that's where fear is instrumental, because you can't have courage without fear. See, fear comes in. And this is why through these fabricated wars that we've had on this planet, this is where people have, been awarded the Medal of Honor, the Silver Cross, and Purple Heart because they got shot in the line of duty, and all of these things. And so someone saves the lives of 10 people. Quite amazing, isn't it? So in this life, the reason that the civilization is under so much pressure, right? Fear. And where these lower frequencies and control is the only way they can do that is fear. That's the only way. There is no other way. So imagine we, humanity, mankind, on this planet, in it, above it, below it, master our fears. What do you think would happen? Do you think or feel that what would we have as a people? Where would we be? In the place of fearlessness. Be a lot different, wouldn't it? But it's a choice. No one is going to make you be fearless or to be fearful. No one, only you. And this is, in these meditations, as we evolve, you begin to understand that it is all about you. And it's self-discovery. So you go along and you pick something up that happens to jog you, right? Move you. Could be anything. And you go, that's it. That's been the missing piece. Now I understand. See, that's where we hold the true power. Discovering the gods that we are in the body. Right? And literally melting through our fears, anxiety. See, because fears, what's attached to fears? Anxieties. some people that they're so fearful, and they label it some disease, that they don't leave their dwelling. They won't even go outside the front door. That's all consuming. And the root of that is fear. Fear of what? Government. Fearing the government. And there's just so much of things around us. And how we've been taught, right? How we've been raised, what the influence has been in this life for us, and how we perceive things for ourselves, how we view things. And the worst judge that we could ever have is ourselves. We are highly judgmental of ourselves. Very hard on ourselves, too. Painfully in some cases so. And this is why it is so important for us to practice with ourselves gentleness, kindness, generosity, and humbleness. And with ourselves to stay in gratitude. See, when you look at something, this is how fears melt away. You look at a fear and you go, I'm grateful I'm having this fear. The universe is teaching me something. What is it teaching me? You may not know immediately, but then something occurs after you've experienced something. Then you know, this is why I experienced this. Because it's really teaching me about something I really didn't know a lot about in depth. And experience is paramount for all of us. This is what we do. We experience everything. That's everything. But see, we have a tendency to kind of fall asleep at the wheel because we just don't look at everything as experience. We just look at everything as life, right? And instead of saying, man, I'm experiencing a lot in this life, I experience every day. I go to bed, I'm experiencing the movement of going to bed and sleeping, this body. I experience laughing, I experience crying. I know the difference between the two of them. And whenever I'm confronted through the ego mind, anything that is fear-based, I immediately embrace it and literally eliminate it. So you can sit on the couch and you can, across the way, on the opposite couch, you see all these fears sitting there. And you go, okay, it's fear time. For all of you and me to determine why you are all here. And you go right down the line. Okay? And you say, okay, number one, fear, what's worst case scenario? With yourself. You say, what's the worst case scenario? What is my worst case scenario with this fear? And why do you do that? Because it literally eliminates the fear. Because you face the worst case scenario. Not the bowl full of cherries scenario, but the worst case scenario. And you say, okay, so this is the worst thing that can happen. And literally, you may have the worst things happen. The worst thing that could possibly happen, see? But see, you've already faced the fear. You've already addressed the worst case scenario. And even if the worst case scenario happens, you will not have that fear. universe always sends something in. There's always something that is supporting you, believe it or not. And many aren't aware of this, so they really fall into a deep fear. But look through your life to date. Any fears that consumed you, what eventually ended up happening with you, right? What eventually ended up happening? And ask yourself that. And then you find out that really everything that I thought, really, that and we do, the mind and the ego conjure up just macabre things at times and fears. But it didn't happen. How we perceived it, fear, didn't happen the way we believed it would happen. How the mind contrived it, structured it, and put it there front and center. And then you might say to yourself, man, I was scared to death about doing this. Come to find out, there was nothing to be scared to death about. You see how that works? And, it's like, for example, you're with some friends, right? And you're at a amusement park. And just about everybody in the group says, let's go on that major ride over there. Up and down, twisting, everything, dropping. You say, immediately, fear bubbles up. You say, I'm not, what if it breaks? What if something goes wrong with the mechanics or electricals of it? And people do this too. I don't know. I remember I saw an article where, one of these things broke and several people fell to their death. And this is the ego mind working on you. And they say, oh, come on. Sit next to me, I'll put my arm around you, you'll be fine. So then you finally, begrudgingly, say to, oh, okay, all right, but you're still just really scared to death. So you get on the ride, and you've never been on this kind of ride. You usually just said, no, I'm not going to go on those rides. And you get on the ride, and yeah, it's scary, but in the end, and after the ride is finished, you say to yourself, that wasn't bad at all. In fact, that was kind of fun. You see how that works? If I go out with this person, I'm going to have a bad time. And then you go out with the person, and you have a great time. See, what happens is when you're not expecting, when you don't have expectations, and you just go with the flow, literally, right? Good things happen. Now, you might have some little dips and bumps and curves, right, thrown at you. But all in all, good things transpired. Hey, this was great. Wasn't this great, Alice? Alice says, yeah, I was really afraid, but now that it's done, I enjoyed it. And it's interesting because none of us are exempt. From time to time, we have these fears come in. They can hit us out of the clear blue, where it's like you're not expecting, right? So you don't have this premonition or anything. It's just boom, out of nowhere, it just comes in. And you kind of look at it and you go, okay, what's there to fear about this? Blah, 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 this. What's the deal? But it's when we decide to take the fear and put it under the carpet. Because you guys know, you could stuff stuff under the carpet, and eventually it's going to form like a little mound. And then if you keep stuffing, it's going to be a big mound. And you can't ignore it. And eventually you won't be able to stuff it because it'll be too stuffed, full of fears. So we visit them as often as we can, and we face them. And we say, what's the worst thing that can happen to me with this fear? And you'll get an answer. You'll know, oh, well, maybe this, and that. Okay, is it going to kill me? Well, it can't kill you, the God. But you were talking about the body, will I be forced to leave the body? Okay, so what happens then? Well, then you're done with that life. It's just that simple. Or you're being evicted, you say, where am I going to live? What am I going to do? How am I going to eat? All that stuff. Now, there's things that you learn to start implementing so that whenever you're in a situation, right? You've created something due to your experiences in this life that's there for you. And it's from the universe. So you create something. You create a fail-safe. And it's within you. It's no different than when a group of us are stranded. We're all together. Could be a plane crash, anything. You've seen the movies and series, whatever. But say there's about a half a dozen. And we don't have anything. We have the clothes. Everything else was destroyed. On our back, them. And there's no food. What do you think happens when any one of us panic? In that situation, that scenario? The one who panics leaves the body. 9 times out of 10. The one who remains calm and focused and balanced and not fearful survives. So that's kind of a roadmap for any of us. Any type of fear that comes at us, right, that the mind creates, we view it. We either view it from what direction? We either view it or we don't. We either face it or we don't. Okay? Or we'll say, I'll take care of that tomorrow. Or, I'll deal with that later. But see, the reason that we do things, right, is because fear forces us to do things so that we don't have the fear. And instead of reviewing the fear and relaxing and flowing, you're saying, okay, worst case scenario is this, big deal. Big deal. I've been through this, I've been through that, This is not insurmountable. And then you start to realize well, then I'm going to manifest what I want to have manifest and how I want this in so many words to come, actually transpire, how I want it to end, say. And no matter what comes, you focus on how you manifest it and how you want it to dissolve. And you may have already learned in this life that everything teaches us something. But a lot of us won't look at it as that. We just look at it as a bothersome thing or frustrating thing. So, it's a choice for us. And we learn and we experience and we come across. I'm sure that everybody in this meditation has had some form of a major fear happen with them about something. And it could have been something that wasn't even occurring, but the fear was there through the ego mind. That gripped them and controlled them and pushed them and influenced them and kept them awake and, all the whole night yards. And then they finally figured it out and said, it's not a big deal. Nothing is really a big deal. Now, to the ego mind, everything's a big deal. Okay? And so you're trying to, ski, right, on a little baby hill. And you've never skied before, right? So you're worried how, the people are looking and so on. So you're on the baby hill and, everybody else is on the bigger hill. And so you're like, and you fall, right? Or you're ice skating, you fall, or skating, you fall. And you get irritated because you fell. And then you start fearing, well, if I fall, break a bone, something like that, and then mind ego kicks in. And you say, it's not a big deal, I'm just having fun, right? I'm not out to prove anything, I'm not out to impress anybody, I'm having fun with me. See? And to really have that feeling for yourself. So then all that other stuff, it just dissipates, melts away. And it's like so many people today in our country they're saying, how am I going to pay the rent? And I got to buy food, I got to pay the rent, and I've got to put gas in the vehicle so I can get places. How am I going to do that? And you say, well, we'll figure it out. We have, there's a way. We'll create something that will allow that to happen. It's not a big deal. So you give it energy, but you give it positive energy. And when you say giving energy, it's just you're manifesting how you want the universe to assist you. You say, hey, universe, and the universe already knows. And so you figure things out. You say, okay, I'm going to look at the solutions that I have available to me on how to solve these fears. Some people will get to the point where they go, I've had it, that's it. Forget it. I don't care what happens. And it's really funny because when they let go like that, positive things start coming in. Did you see that coming, Frank? I had no idea. Didn't know. It came out of clear blue. It really saved my rear end. And I am deeply grateful for it. So in this meditation, if you look at any fears that you have, with focused on your breath, easy in through the nose, easy out through the mouth, moving into the now every time, stilling the ego mind and the subconscious mind, because you're leaving them alone. You're not engaging them. In the now, you don't engage them. Your 60,000 plus thoughts don't exist. All these millions of programs don't exist. Your fears how it happens. You move into the now, you have no fears. Okay? And then you turn in the moment and you say, what is my biggest fear right now in this moment? What is my biggest fear? And I guarantee you, the God within you will tell you. And you get the feeling and you'll know. And you say, I'm going to embrace that fear. Full body hug. And then I'm going to look at that fear, and you're going to look at it from moment to moment. Not tomorrow, not yesterday, but in the now, moment to moment. And by the end of the meditation, you will not have that fear. Be careful. Don't let the ego mind trick you into believing that you're in the heart mind, but actually in the ego mind. You'll know, you'll drop into the heart mind, in the now. If the ego mind tries to pull you out, or you float off on another thought, focus on the breath, bring yourself right back into the now. And it will every time. Try this in this quiet time of meditation. Because literally, guys, like I said, there are pros about fear when it comes to waking us up to some things, right? But to be consumed by fear, it must be expelled so that we as a civilization can move freely forward. I'll join you in the meditation and I'll return to close us out. Take an easy, slow breath in through the nose. An easy, slow breath out the mouth. Be still. Tapping into the infinite source is not easy. It is effortless. Just be still. Go within, stay there, and explore the deepest silence you can imagine. Observe the mind. Listen to the thoughts. Soon, you will glimpse the reality. And in one instant, you will understand the most powerful realization of all, who you truly are. After one moment of this, you will see you have the power to manifest everything you think. Take this with you for the rest of the day into evening and night, following morning. We will return here Friday, August 5th, 2022, 3 p.m. Eastern to continue our global guided meditation call, and 9 p.m. Eastern to continue our reverse aging.